What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we are reviewing Clash in Italy 2026. Before I jump into the matches, I want to jump into the King and Queen of the Ring tournaments. You have Penta, Obafemi, Solo Sikoa, Carmelo Hayes, and then Mysterio versus Braun Breaker versus Williams versus Damian Priest, Rollins versus Javon Evans versus Talatonga versus Ricky Saints, then Jey Uso versus LA Knight versus Royce Keys versus Finn Balor. Jumping into the Queen of the Ring tournament, it is Liv Morgan, which I don't understand. She is literally the women's world champion, versus Becky Lynch versus Alexa Bliss versus Chelsea Green. Then Sol Ruka versus Lyra Valkyria versus Charlotte Flair versus Jade Cargill. Then Roxanne Perez versus Io Sky versus Julia versus Last Legend. And then finally, Bayley versus Raquel Rodriguez versus JC Jane versus Kiana James. And I promise the video is not this fast when it comes to talking. I know the tournaments went by really fast. Jumping to the first match, it was Gunter versus Cody Rhodes for the WWE Championship. A lot of crossroads, sleepers, big boots, and chops. There was also a few disaster kicks. Cody even hit Randy's power slam. They put on a pretty good match. Like I said, it was kind of repetitive. Couldn't find the word. But you know, it was good. It was decent match. There was disaster kicks getting reversed into sleeper holds. There were I believe Cody went for a disaster kick and got chopped or something. It was kind of like the same things over and over again, but overall it was a pretty good match. There's not much to go over because, like I said, really repetitive. Everything I said was just in this match. I think there was like one dive, that was it, and then it ended with Cody pinning Gunter, but Gunter had his foot under the ropes. The ref didn't see it. Cody didn't realize, and on the post show he said, "I saw the replay and I'm very disappointed. Gunter, you could get a rematch." So, and now let's jump into the next match. Jumping into the next match, it was Jade Cargill versus Rhea Ripley for the women's women's championship. This match started off slow and kind of stayed at just a normal pace. It wasn't as big as they're trying to make it. It started with a bunch of lockups. And for like the first 2-3 minutes, it was just a bunch of lockups. And then breaking out of the lockups to go back into another lockup. And then when they went onto the outside, it started to pick up. Rhea Ripley picked up Jade Cargill on her shoulders and slammed her onto the apron. She countered. She got in the ring. Jade Cargill kind of started to get more offense. She went for the jaded. Rhea Ripley rolled her up and hit her with a double foot stomp. She had a razor's edge. And then once she started getting the full-on upper hand, Meechin and B-Fab came out. They started to get involved. Rhea pinned Jade. They put B-Fab failed almost completely to put Jade's foot onto the rope. And then they kind of both walked near the barricade, which Charlotte Flair jumped on to both of them. And when the next time Jade pinned Rhea, Charlotte put Rhea's foot on the ropes. And this was kind of the ending of the match. And Rhea Ripley just hit her with a riptide and retained the title. Jumping to the next match, it was Brock Lesnar versus Obafemi. And before the bell even rang, Brock Lesnar whacked Obafemi into the corner, and then the bell rang. He hit Oba with 4 F5s and then pinned him, and he kicked out. Then he went almost right into the Kimura lock, and Obafemi somehow lifted him up because Brock Lesnar had it in tight, like so tight to the point where he's broken people's arms with how tight it was. And Oba lifted him up. It looked like he was going to drive him into the corner, but instead he threw him onto the mat. Obafemi didn't really have a lot of offense in this match. I mean, he hit some moves, like he threw him across the ring, like he had him up on his shoulders and tossed him across the ring like it was nothing. He went to hit a choke slam. Brock dodged it with an F5. then Obafemi clotheslined him outside of the ring. They both kind of like spun when they went outside. He went to hit a choke slam onto Brock through the announce table, but then he got F5 through the announce table. One of them got driven into the post. I believe Oba got driven into the post. Brock Lesnar then put Oba through the announce table. He went right into the ring. It looked like Brock was going to win by countout, but out of nowhere, Obafemi, it's like, I think the ref was on like 7 or 8. He gets up like it was nothing. He walks into the ring, and Brock is like, he did really well kind of hyping Obafemi up. And it ended with Oba went for the fall from grace. Brock Lesnar jumped over Oba, hit him with an F5, and pinned him to win the match. Jumping into the next match, it was Sol Ruca versus Becky Lynch for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. This match kind of started out hot. It was more of a Becky-Jessica Carr situation because she was the referee yet again. I feel like they're going to have a match one day because Jessica Carr is a wrestler and she's training again. So I feel like she's going to have a little match with Becky Lynch in the future. But it was kind of like them going at it at the start. And then Sol Ruca, she started doing like flips and tricks, and she understood the ropes of the main roster now. Literally the ropes of the main roster because they're different, and it kept messing her up. But she ended up, this match showed that she is capable of using this ring now. She was, they clotheslined each other on the outside. Becky Lynch threw her up onto the apron. She did a handstand and then hooked her legs on the rope and the turnbuckle. She lifted herself up as Becky Lynch went to throw a punch at her. She did a sit-up, and Becky Lynch whacked her hand into the post. Then they got back in the ring. Like I said, a bunch of flips and tricks. Sol Ruca did a springboard flip, went to clothesline Becky. Becky stopped her. She hit her with a manhandle slam, and there was a lot of that in there too. There was a lot of manhandle slams in there, and a lot of manhandle slam attempts. And there was even one by Sol Ruca. They did a little spot where Becky went for the Soul Snatcher, and Sol Ruca stopped it and hit a manhandle slam. Becky Lynch in the corner was gonna drive Sol Ruca into the corner, but Jessica Carr was there, so she had to exit the ring. And then Becky pinned Sol, and she wasn't there in time, so they're gonna probably play into that again. Then there was a really, really cool spot where Sol Ruca went to hit the Soul Snatcher. Becky Lynch ducked and had her in an armbar, which was really, really cool. And then to end the match, Becky went for the manhandle slam. She reversed it, hit a Soul Snatcher, and became your new Women's Intercontinental Champion. Jumping into the main event, it was Jacob Fatu versus Roman Reigns in a tribal combat. If Roman wins, Jacob had to be Roman's servant. If Jacob wins, Roman and the Usos have to acknowledge him as the tribal chief. And it was for the World Heavyweight Championship as well. It started off with a bunch of grapples, kind of similar to Rhea and Jade Cargill. It was just a bunch of grapples and grapples and grapples. And then they went into the outside, and then they went into the crowd. And they had some pretty big steps. Like, it was like 2 sets of stairs, and they were like 20 feet long, and it looked like they were empty seats. It looked like all those seats were empty, but no, they were just all stairs. So that was a little interesting. And they kind of kept rolling around the crowd and doing other stuff. And then Roman got to a stand, like a food stand, and he grabbed food and like whacked Jacob with it, and then grabbed food and threw it into the crowd. They got back to the outside of the ring. Jacob went to grab like a table, then he didn't. he went back on focus for Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns then took Jacob out and opened the same apron. He went to grab a kendo stick. He didn't. He went to grab a chair. He didn't. And then he grabbed a toolbox because Jacob used the Tonga death grip. So Roman was smart. He grabbed a toolbox. And when Jacob was by the announce table, he grabbed the toolbox and smashed it on his right hand. And then Jacob crawled towards the stairs. And he had his hand near the stairs. So Roman grabbed the toolbox and chucked him at the stairs and whacked his hand. And then throughout the match, they kind of played into it until like the end of the match. They kind of stopped playing into his hand being hurt because he used the Tonga death grip again. No one got involved, which I'm glad, because the whole point of tribal combat is no one's supposed to get involved. And I believe the last 2 tribal combat matches, someone got involved, but no one got involved here. Roman ended up grabbing a table till Jacob took him out and then picked up the table and put it in the ring. So he just did what Roman was going to do, but he had to do it, I guess. Roman Reigns hit a few spears. Jacob Fatu went to hit him with a pop-up Samoan drop, and Roman hit him with a Superman punch. Then Jacob Fatu was kind of like dazed or whatever, and then he just randomly fell, and he kicked out of that. And they were just playing into all this stuff. Roman ripped off all or 3 of the turnbuckles because the 4th turnbuckle had the table on it. And then he drove Jacob Fatu into one turnbuckle, drove him into another. And then he hit him with, I believe, a spear, and then he kicked out anyways. And then Roman hit him again with the 2 turnbuckles and went to spear him through the table. And I don't know. This match was kind of slow, and then it picked up. It was really weird. Jacob Fatu finally hit the pop-up Samoan drop, went for the moonsault. It didn't connect, or no, it connected, but Roman kicked out. And when he kicked out, he low-blowed Jacob Fatu. But to end the match, Roman bounced off one rope, bounced off another, speared Jacob Fatu, and won. He is still the tribal chief and still the world heavyweight champion. And then the Usos came out, celebrated with Roman. They kind of ordered Jacob to come with him, and he did. And Solo, Tama Tonga, and Tala Tonga were by the barricade watching, and Roman kind of stared at him. The Usos stared at him. They walked away. Jacob walked out of the ring. He was staring at Solo for a little longer, and then he left. That's going to be it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Peace.